Ready to go? I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order on Monday, October 13th, 2025 at 1 p.m. Roll call, Berto here.
Allison here.
White here.
Last here.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Housen,
Second.
second by Laskowitz, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 25th, 2025, or are there any comments, questions, corrections?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Laskowitz,
Second.
second by White, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. 5, Agenda 5, discussion action items, A, review of 2026-2030 capital improvement plan and 2026 budget. So let's start with the CIP.
Just to
Okay.
mention, Andy Warfel is now with us.
Okay, thank you.
We're starting with SIP.
Yes,
I guess that one, no.
I know Bridget had said at the last time, when we were just talking about what was going to be levied in 26. You had said that you didn't, want some of the other projects to move forward.
Not even wanting them to move forward, but just had questions, like. The wastewater treatment plant, 15 million, obviously that's a huge ticket item. I just want to make sure when people ask, oh my gosh, why did you guys approve that? The budget, was that all about? That we have like a really great answer and all of the due diligence has been done.
That's,
You know-
we're still working through the process. on
Right,
that.
that's what I figured, and so. No, I
No
know,
decision has been made. It's just kind of in there as a placeholder.
right, yeah. No, I get that. I mean, as we go through it more, I understand more that a lot of items are just placeholders and can be reviewed in next year, so. Nothing glaring outside of that one, and then there was the. Sewer and water lateral, but we've talked about that, and,
The one, you're talking about the one that's going to Deppers.
right, and there was another
That's
thing in
part
here
of
from
the,
Megan too.
there's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, the other one's going.
Is the
forward.
white in there you?
Mhm.
Okay.
I had a question about what's not in SIP, and that is, the infrastructure for, Wiltsey, because we removed it. And there was 3.5 million in for 2025, and it was removed. So this is just me needing to understand that when it's removed, it doesn't, because I know that there's an agenda item related to Wiltsey for today. When it's removed, it doesn't, where does it go? I mean, this doesn't poof, go, it just moved much further out? Or, because this is 26 through 30, right?
Well, it came at the request, I think, of this committee to remove.
100%, so there, it's nowhere
It's
in
no,
the SIP, got it, just,
it's in the cloud.
gotcha. I just wanna, yeah, I just wanna be sure. So, and I attended the housing committee meeting, sorry, that was about a week ago, and it was very good, by the way. And so I can fill you in as best I can, on why that's presented to us today. What we do about it is a different story, but I can explain that. Okay, that was my question.
Well, do you want to explain it now?
Recording in progress.
Sorry, I gotta turn this. I thought I had this. I can't, I'll look at my notes. Okay. At the housing meeting, we met, the housing meeting was essentially a meeting with. I don't remember his name, sorry, Wait was good. Hold on a second, just get his. Name for you guys, and he's from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He had come to speak to the Wiltsey Committee a long time ago, several years ago. And so when he did, he was great, talked to the Wiltsey Committee and so forth, fast forward. And, Chad had been on the Wiltsey Committee, Chad joined Housing and said, why don't we have him come back and talk to us again? So what was happening was the Housing Committee was being challenged by the board, essentially, after going to the board for funding, saying, we need a model. Your mission was to come to us and bring us a model for housing for Wiltsey. You haven't done that. Bring us a model, then we can talk. Essentially, that's where we were, right? So at Housing, let me find the name of this guy so I can talk about him. I'm sorry, I don't remember. It's someplace. So we met with, the Housing Committee met, it was myself and, for trustees, it was just me. Chad and Patrice were not there. However, there are some really great people on housing. So for that particular meeting, it was.
Tom Landgraf, is that who you're talking about?
Tom Landgraf, yeah. And it just excellent. I mean, really, really excellent guy and knows his way around. So at that meeting, it was Marissa Downs, who you guys know, I think, and Kay Smith, myself, and it was Julie and Tom. So essentially, I have 5 pages of notes. So the bottom line is he went through a PowerPoint he put together for us that he is then forwarding to Julie, that she will share with us, that we can then share with the board at some point. I personally think it would be a very good idea for him to come to the board at some point, so we understand, we can understand from him his point of view. He was very complimentary, actually, on the work that the village had done. Not just to a certain extent at Wiltsey, but also the work the village had done with the property they own and with the housing coalition, et cetera. So he was well aware. He was also well prepared.
Partnership, you mean?
Yeah, well prepared and well versed and had read, I don't know, 2 years worth of meeting minutes for what we've done. So impressive and what everybody should do, right? So the question was, and what Marissa kept saying at the meeting was, what does the village need to contribute to us? What do we need to ask the village for in order to put together a sensible model for them? Because we can't do that without some funding from the village, because nobody's going to put that together for us unless we give them some money, right? So we talked about right now, Wiltsey is 57 acres. We can only develop about 49 because of what's happening with the soil and the arsenic and so forth. So roughly 49 acres. And then there was a discussion about it probably would be very smart because, you know, with anything, you do it in phases. And then, so how much will the village give us? Well, I said, well, as a board, we don't, how much do you want? And what are you gonna do with it? You know, that, because there's been that back and forth for a long time. Like, come on, tell us what you're doing. So, basically, what he said was, probably what you need to do is you need to at least get a first dive bite-sized design for the first phase. And in order to do that, you need a site design and you need to pay somebody to do the site design, whoever the heck that is. That's going to cost around 50 to 75 grand, whatever it is. And whether that first phase is coming off of Scandia Road, which is the north side of the property, right? Or wherever it is, then what does that look like? We also talked about, what is it, high density? So is it multifamily? Or is it clusters of homes? He showed us a few different pictures of really pocket neighborhoods in a lot of different places that were really well done. And pocket neighborhoods are in the middle of, it's like a pocket, right? In the middle of things. Well, we aren't gonna put a pocket neighborhood in the middle of my neighborhood or your neighbor, but what's what he meant. So I think what we probably referred to initially as cluster homes, that's what he was referring to. And again, in this presentation, he showed us photographs and he said, pocket neighborhood here is ideal. You build them in clusters. And, so what this request is essentially to say, look, if we can get some money, if you can give us some money, then we can go to probably Stantec or whoever we choose. And just give them a general idea of what we're looking at. How much of it is available, what the phasing looks like, is it a pocket neighborhood? And to start thinking innovatively and, you know, do we want streets, do we not? It's that sort of thing, but they're not gonna do anything for free. So for us to come to for the housing committee, us as a housing committee, to come to the board with a model. It won't be, it's not gonna be founded or based on anything unless. A designer, unless Stantec or somebody does it for us, and that costs money.
Okay, that's not the model we were talking about.
What you were
We're
talking
not
about,
talking about a model home.
no, that's not what I'm talking about either. I think what you were talking, the village was talking, the board was talking
Is
about.
how do we develop the property and have it be workforce housing or attainable housing or
Mhm.
whatever word you want to use in perpetuity,
Right,
like what the housing partnership does with a land trust.
right. So are we the developers? Do we give it to a developer? I think that's what you're talking about, right? And what kind of housing is it? So what kind of housing is it drives a lot of that. Because in terms of who the developer is. And who they, you know, what they might be interested in, the other thing that drives a big part of it is. If we give them the land, we give them the dirt, but not the infrastructure. Then that's another part of it, so there's a lot of different elements to. That.
Okay.
You know, so, I mean, we had Portside came and talked to us. Olenishek came to talk to us before he left Sturgeon Bay about what they've done at Geneva Ridge, which is in Sturgeon Bay. And what that model looks like and so forth, but we felt, as did. Those that were at the housing committee felt that. The first step would be to have some sort of design, and the idea would be that. No, we're not the developers, we're not the builders, but we work with the developer, and then as he said, there would need to be. Essentially covenants in place regarding ownership. And what could it, you know, what it could be used for, you know, how, when it could be sold and how it's sold and so forth, all of that.
So the committee feels that they need some seed money to take that first step.
Yeah.
Okay, 50 to 75,000.
That's what he thought.
Okay.
That's what he thought. I asked, what's the return on investment? And he said. Developer is going to need a lot of, let's see what he's. Oh, developer is gonna need a lot of money, and he's gonna need to go to a lender. And meaning he's gonna need a lot of somebody else's money, he's gonna need a lender, and what's their criteria? So, you know, there's so much, there's a lot that's at play. You know? So what would the loan get them? They could go to their lenders, who go to their customers, who, you know, who sell the loan. You know, that it's not easy. It's doable. He thought it was really doable, by the way. He didn't paint this horrible picture. It's definitely doable. Definitely.
You had a question, Bridget?
So. I didn't get to listen to that one in particular,
You should.
all of them, but I've read through several sections of the.
It's up
notes.
there. It was an hour and a half, longer than normal, but it's a good one.
I guess my concern is, and most people that I talk to. I will say. I think if we could get housing for teachers and people for Door County Medical Center and caregivers for Scandinavian Bill, you know. If we can get people who can come up here and be in the professions that we need and buy these houses with their families and stuff, that's awesome. I think that would be great. But I don't know how you build I know you can build all these things and put rules in place where you can never rent them.
Being short-term rentals.
Right.
Yep.
I think that's doable legally. I don't know how you build all of these condos or small homes or townhouses or whatever they might be, and keep people from purchasing them as a second home or as a vacation home. So what if, so say we have 50 houses and they're small and they're great for a single family with 2 kids. Or whatever, and all of a sudden, lickety split, you've got 20 people from Illinois, they're like, oh, awesome, a retirement cottage, I don't need to rent it out, I'll just use it for myself and my grandkids. You've got another 30 people who are, I just wanna have a place up there, like, I
Yeah.
don't care if it's, you know.
Well,
I'm
that's
just saying,
why,
how
that's
is-
part of the model.
That's the deed restriction piece of it.
Right, but I don't think legally you can say one person can buy it and the other person can't based on how much time they'll spend in their home. You can't, I don't think you can put a time limit on, well, if you don't live here year round and contribute economically to the community, you can't buy this. I don't think you can legally do that.
Other places have, Colorado does.
I don't know how they,
And Sturgeon Bay, Geneva Ridge did too.
I
I don't know if it's legal or not, I'm not.
I just think they've not been.
But I'm just saying,
So in Geneva Ridge, they put it condition to be full-time employed with
Mhm.
their county. And I guess maybe they had more into it, maybe for.
And maybe that was a percentage of it or something, I don't know how it lays out, but I'm just saying. I agree that there needs to be more housing for people who wanna live up here and work here full-time, and so our staff, even at the village, doesn't have to commute an hour back and forth all the time. I think that would be awesome, but until the housing committee can get somebody in who can definitively say, yes, you can legally limit in this way, this way, and this way, and this is what you're allowed to do, I'll have a hard time voting yes to putting money into it.
Mhm.
Because what if you now put money into it? You've done all this thing and you're like, wait, oh, just kidding. We can't do that. You can't limit it at all. And 90% of it ends up as second homes. for
I hear you, I hear what
vacations.
you're saying, it's
So
like,
that's the concern I hear all the time about it, and I don't totally disagree with it. Although I think the idea is wonderful. I think there needs to be some legal backing before we start handing out tens of thousands of dollars for it.
and that's a
That's my
discussion
opinion.
at plan commission, that's, I mean, that's a. Well, in housing, we certainly, we can have it, get a legal opinion for it, because he talked about it, and my notes were that, and there were question marks about deed restriction and what it would cost legal, to get clarification legally on whether or not we could do it.
I would pay the lawyer before I would pay.
Yeah.
The person to do all the other stuff.
So this is not though in the current SIP, right? I mean, today is our discussion about SIP planning beyond 26?
It's
or
one
is
of
it-
the, but it is on the
They-
agenda
They
for
jumped to
today.
5C.
Okay,
Well, Denise said, let's hear what housing had to say. So it's
Okay.
part of 5C on whether or not, so we can decide to send it back and say, look, we need more clarification. Fine. But that's why,
I would approve money for a lawyer. So they can come up with how this is gonna play out
Mhm,
without it becoming a problem. I would
Mhm.
approve that
mhm.
for sure.
Mhm.
But I don't know that I would vote yes to just giving money to developing a plan that might not be able to happen the way everybody wants it to happen. I would hate for us to get stuck in that bubble.
All right, I have a suggestion.
Sure.
I agree on getting a firm, legal argument. Most likely, probably, maybe not from the village attorney, but from somebody who specializes in that. I think we could find $5,000 in undesignated balance fund for that. The board would just have to take some action, on using those funds. Eric is not on our call today, okay. So I still have a lot of concern over the $150,000 track list that we have in the CIP for next year. After a major overhaul of the one that we have, and they are supposed to last and last and last. And I wanted to have a conversation, with Eric about that. I had talked to Julie, to make sure that he would, be here and had part of this discussion. So if we got a good, by the end of the year, a good legal opinion on how we would do that, I would suggest that we could take 75,000 out of the trackless and not purchase the trackless next year. That we could earmark for this if needed.
Okay, so I can, I'm not chair of housing, but I certainly can go back to, I go back to Tom and ask him for at least a referral. 'Cause I'm
For an
assuming he would-
attorney,
Yeah,
yeah.
for an attorney, because I'm assuming he would know a good person to speak with. Or
Well,
at least reach out.
I mean, the place in Colorado that's done it successfully, maybe housing committee reach out to that development, ask what attorney they use, maybe just have a real candid
We
conversation
did talk to
with
them, we
them.
talked to two different people from Colorado. That have been doing it for years and years and years, but I don't remember the specifics on their deed restrictions, to tell you the truth. I'd have to go back and ask them. I mean, we've been meeting for like over a year. We've talked to a lot of people, but I'm happy to go back to her. Yeah, it was Crested Butte.
Well, wasn't there one,
They're all over in Colorado.
I was gonna say, whatever the ski resort.
Well, Telluride has one.
Telluride.
Well, the thing at Telluride is also very different too, but I will, without having to talk, let me,
And we can also reach out to Sturgeon Bay, find out what their criteria is and even
Yeah.
forward that to whatever attorney
yeah,
that we find and say, how does Sturgeon Bay's look?
yeah, I mean,
How
I
do
can
we
ask Josh. Because,
Improve upon that.
because, although I can still call, Olenicek, call and see what they did.
Right.
Because you're right, there's something there that they have to be full-time and theirs is slightly different, but anyway, okay.
No, it's their,
And they can't, there's no short-term rentals. That I don't think is hard. No
No,
short-term
that I
rentals,
think you
that's
can
not
do.
hard.
It's the.
It's, you have to work full-time in the village. Or you have to be a full-time resident in the village that I think you're asking about, right?
Right,
If
so
you're a resident.
that these don't end up being $300,000 vacation.
Right, well, that's never been our intent.
No, no, I know
Last thing
that,
we
right.
want is more outsiders.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about that, yeah.
It's not
Okay.
funny when you say outsiders. I don't think it's ever been the housing committee's intent to do that. I'm just saying,
Oh, No,
I think we need to be super careful if we want to make this happen. If the housing committee really wants this to be successful, I think they need to have all of their ducks in a row well ahead of time legally before any developers are even brought in to talk to, before we start engineering any type of plat survey or anything, you know what I mean?
So the caveat here is that it's going to take $3.5 to $4 million to put in the infrastructure that is not in the CIP.
yeah, it was 3.5 million, that's what we had in there. Yeah.
And as we found out this morning from the Marina Committee, their bid went up $150,000
It did.
in
Well, I will
7
say,
months.
part of that is that the dredging was included in that bid, so take $50,000.
Oh, okay.
I didn't wanna like over clarify while he was talking, but
Oh,
so
okay.
80 to 100 for a lot of them, and I'm curious what he has to say, why they said it was, but my guess is it's concrete. Concrete went up quite a bit, and the steel, I don't know if it went up or not, but.
Probably, I mean, they'll always say staffing, but we always have a staffing issue.
Right, and the person who won the bid the first time around rebid and was way over, and they knew it's the same exact project, so. Something materials wise, whatever.
Well, if it was, what did they say, 4 or 5 months ago or something? I mean, the tariffs hadn't exactly kicked in, but I don't know, whatever, okay. One thing that he did say as well was, the least risk in terms of developing or anything is rental. Because there's a high demand. It's the least amount of risk, in terms of occupancy, he's thinking fill them up. but I'm not suggesting that that's, so. I haven't typed my notes up, as you can see, so I have to still do that, but, anyway, so I will be in touch and then report back to housing.
Okay, so,
But you then talk, so,
Mm.
okay, so we're back to the SIP now, okay.
So I apologize for missing the SIP discussion. I had a wicked case of the flu. So I don't wanna,
Are you all right now?
I am great now.
Better be,
I don't wanna,
otherwise you should leave.
I don't want to, that was a while ago. I don't want to rehash what you've gone through, but when you ask for comments on the SIP, I'm commenting specifically on the projects that are listed in the 2026 SIP with an expenditure total of $851,697. And when we look at that list, I have a couple of questions that I wasn't able to sort out from the packet. The Highway 57 trail at 239, is that not offset by a grant? Or is that the net number?
that's our share.
That's our share.
It's like nine, I think that just over 900,000.
Okay, so that's our net. The track list, I agree with you, Denise. I'm not sure I get 150,000 for that after the major overhaul of maintenance. I don't, I guess the question is, we have library, it's in smaller number, but library painting, why is that not in an operating budget? I mean, that's maintenance and operations. It's not capital. It's got to be replaced every 5 to 6 years, I'm assuming. Is there some reason that that's a capital project?
That's just what the library board gave us, so that's what we,
Do we have any rules, Vlad, on how we do?
Yeah, your capital improvement policy is that anything over $5,000 equates as a capital improvement item. So that's why particularly that item is being considered capital improvement because it's related to a larger ticket building item.
Okay, so it's just dollar, there's no other requirement?
It's typically dollars, and then generally when it's anything that is a building that is over kind of $5,000 value, it's the discretion of whether or not you want to put it in the budget or it goes into the CIP. Historically, anything like that has been a CIP item for
Right,
the
that's how
village.
it's been done historically, I understand. And then the
hello,
other,
Adam, I didn't know you were with us.
Hi there.
then the other question I had here is in the description in the packet, it says, understanding that, it says per the direction to focus on reducing the finalized mill rate, capital improvement fund portion levy is estimated at, how does the 627 levy compare to the actual 851 expense? What's the difference?
So there's $620,720 that is being levied for capital projects, and then the intention is the remaining amount, instead of levying for that, will be used as TID 1 is going to reimburse the capital project fund to cover that remaining 851,000.
Well, that's the transfer of the 231 from TID 1.
Yes.
All right. I guess I'd also like to know when there's a favorable impact from the TID to the general fund. Are there any rules or guidelines as to how those dollars have to be applied? Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, do we just have the discretion to decide to use that against, is it a specific SIP project or total SIP expenses?
So the reason why the TID is essentially being able to, or is reimbursing the capital improvement fund, is because at one point in time there were projects that should have been funded by the TIF that weren't able to. So this is kind of a long-term process of now the TIF, because it is generating positive increment and has excess increment, it's able to reimburse the CIP back for that. So to kind of answer your question, Mike, it depends on what that was for. So in the TIF and in the budget, there's a couple of different areas that the tax increment district is reimbursing costs that essentially other funds took on. So one of those is the CIP. So when the TIF transfers money into the CIP, that then is up to obviously the finance committee and the board's discretion on how they want to apply that. The same thing occurs kind of from the general fund, is there's transfers that are going to be made from the tax increment district into the general fund. And that, can be a future conversation of whether or not you want that to apply towards, offsetting certain projects in the general fund or expenses in the general fund. The same thing accounts for debt service, is that if the TID reimburses money into the debt service fund, it can only be used for that. So it just depends on what fund essentially that money is being put into that you can use it for. So in this instance, there was money that essentially was related to capital improvement projects that were for the TID that the TID couldn't pay. So the CIP fund essentially did that for it. Now that the TIF is in a good financial position, it's repaying that money back to the CIP. And so the 230,000 is essentially being able to be utilized to reduce what you otherwise would have to levy for or essentially not fund projects.
Thank you. The part of my question that was most important to me that you answered is that the underfunding of the TID was SIP related, therefore the 230 can go back into SIP and then be used as a SIP fund, essentially is what you said. I will have that.
Yep.
I will have that same question around the general fund because, as Vlad has made us aware, until recently, we were a little nervous about the general fund and not only the dollar value of the general fund, but how it was allocated to specific projects in terms of how we raised it. And I believe we found this spreadsheet that now helps us with that. But when we get to the operating budget, Adam, I hope you're still on the line because I have a couple questions about that too.
Sure.
Okay, but thank you for that.
Okay, so do we have general consensus that we will ask Vlad? Well, first of all, that we will ask the board for an agenda item at their next meeting to expend $5,000 for the housing committee for an attorney. And then do we have general consensus that Vlad would change the 2026 CIP, include $75,000 for the housing committee, reduce the track list to 75, which then means we would have to add, until we have that conversation and make a determination on the track list, we add 75 to the 2027 CIP following year.
So Denise, I agree with that, especially the legal piece. Wouldn't the track list be binary? It's $150,000 expense if we get the piece of equipment. If we don't go after it, it's 0 for track list and it would be 75 applied to the housing project. Isn't that how we have to make sure that, is that what you're saying? So with the track list would come off completely?
No, I'm not, because we haven't had that discussion and we
Okay.
haven't made that determination yet.
So are we suggesting that he would, if he's got quotes for a new device at 150, we're saying he'd get a used one? How do you take half
Well,
of
we
it?
already, it's $180,000.
Okay,
30,000 was levied already this year.
okay,
So we're making up the other 150.
okay, so the levy can be allocated to track lists. He may or may not use it, but it can't be used anything else unless the committee approves a change for track lists in the future. Do I have that right? Okay. Yeah, then I guess I agree with it. So, and then what you're suggesting to us is that at some point in the future, we may have a discussion that reallocates that $75,000 to the housing project.
No, I'm saying we're making that change right now.
Oh, and the other 75 just falls out of the number.
It falls
Okay,
into
I'm sorry.
2027.
It moves.
I agree. I totally get it. Thank you. I misunderstood.
Yeah, it's out of here.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just
So
before,
that way, it basically, the CIP number, at least for 26, stays the same.
Mhm.
And so we've reduced
The
it by
actual number, the total number.
75,000.
Yeah.
yeah, so the total goes down by 75,000.
No, because we still have 75,000 in for the trackless in 26.
but it's not applied in 26. It goes into the general fund
No,
with a,
it will be levied for,
which
but
means
not.
we'll raise it. So taxpayers will give us 75,000. And then we're gonna put a tag on that 75,000 that we aren't gonna spend it
Correct,
in 26. We would
Right.
spend it in 27.
correct, possibly, yes. Mhm.
Okay,
I mean, we,
so the total stays the same,
The
but how we're
total stays the
allocating
same.
it stays the same, and we're essentially putting 75,000 in a rainy day fund specifically allocated to a piece of equipment we know we're gonna need in the future.
correct. And as soon as we have that conversation, we'll have an answer.
The only thing I would say is that I'm anxious to get to the bottom line of how the levy impacts the taxpayers for this year.
It's right in the packet,
I know, but we're gonna have a conversation and I have a lot of questions on the way there.
okay. Okay, so we've taken care of housing. So then other general questions on the CIP.
Well, the last one is interest in investments, 73,000. This was how we were gonna fund CIP in 26, potential interest on broadband loan of $125,000. Is there any update on the broadband contract and relationship that can be discussed at this committee, or is that still in the hands of the board?
Did we do that in open or closed?
We did it in open, but we haven't had a future discussion in terms of communicating, where we are in that process with, taxpayers.
And the reason I'm asking is because at the last finance meeting, I asked Adam specifically, this was an issue Andy raised. We've been issued a $3.2 million bond that we haven't used. That's where we're getting the interest from.
You're right.
We also have expense on that. From what I understand, it's about a wash. The issue is, what are our options? And I was hoping we would have that discussion at this meeting, because I did ask that Adam discuss with this committee what the options are for that bond. How do we, essentially cancel it, reuse it for something else? What are those options?
Or, well, I would say that if we're talking about an administration building, that we don't, if we want to use the broadband money now that we already have, why would we want to pay that off only to incur the additional fees for borrowing again?
I don't disagree with you, but the conversation Adam and Julie had with us at the last meeting is you can't just reallocate that the way, because it had been suggested. And that's why I wanted to hear from the financial
It
expert.
can be reallocated.
But is there a
because it's
process?
because it's a taxable bond, there is not a problem. If you would like
Okay.
to chime in, Adam, please do so.
Yeah, so that is something we did look into, Mike, since the last meeting. Was I had Justin, who obviously handles a lot of the debt side of the equation for the village. It is a taxable bond, so if that would be the decision that the board or obviously the village would want to make, is you could transfer that money if it is not going to be used towards broadband, towards another project. So that is one option, if that is the direction they would want to go. The other one is you can do what is essentially called it's a defeasance almost, where you would then have to go through bond counsel and everything and look at essentially if you just wanted to pay that off. We've also provided, some information obviously to Julie. And then when that, full discussions want to occur, whether it's with the committee, I think Justin and I would both present that where we would look at, what that means is there's costs. Obviously, you have to go through with the bond counsel to talk about how you want to pay that off. But that would be an option. So essentially there's two options you can do three, I guess. One is if there is broadband, that is an option where if there's another provider or something that goes along with that, you can use those funds specifically towards broadband. Two would be at the discretion of the village. If there is another project you would want to essentially tie that to, that then could be moved to cover that project. Or three, we could go down the road of looking if there is no intention to use that money. It would then go through the process of who are all the, legal organizations, bond counsel, and everybody else we would need to bring to the table to essentially close out that bond.
Thank you.
So that decision hasn't been made. There are two decisions. First of all, how and when do we communicate? And hopefully sooner, quickly to the taxpayers what we're doing. But you had to make a decision on what you're doing before you communicate it. Either that or you communicate and say, the board's figuring it out, and then you do another communication that says, this is what we're doing, you know?
I think a recommendation, if we have one from the finance committee, could also move forward to the board at the
Uh-huh.
meeting.
Mhm.
Certainly, I think it makes the most sense to pay it off and to pay bond counsel and all this other stuff. It is just silliness.
I would reallocate it. I think we all were kind of in agreement about that last time, but if we were told. I don't think you can just do
Right.
that. I think there's a
We were
process
told
to
you
that.
can't
So
just pay
that
it
was
off.
that was
Right.
kind of where we left it, but I think we all agree. We should just reallocate it if right now our interest is about a wash.
I think the only thing I would add is it would be good if Adam put together a chart with the three options and showed which of the three was the most cost effective. So that could be shared with the board and if necessary, published, so our citizens can see it, because I believe you're right. The decision was made at the time with the information at hand for broadband. The supplier couldn't deliver. Now we have this money borrowed. And the question becomes, what's the best use of it going forward? And a little documentation, Adam, would help.
Absolutely.
I do have a question on this line item that's on here, that on page 8 that we were just talking about. For the 2026 capital improvement fund, will receive the following funding sources to assist with the projects. Can you write potential interest on broadband loan if it's also costing about that same amount to pay off the interest due on it? I don't think that should be included. If you may be gaining interest on the loan money that's sitting there, but you also need almost that exact same amount to
We paid
To
interest.
do something
paying
with
the
it.
interest.
Actually,
So
a good point.
is it worth it to put it here? Because it's not really money that we can use on anything else.
Or do we have to put it there from a accounting, I don't know.
I don't know. And then if that's the case, the one right before it where it says interest in investments, $73,000. Is that a similar situation where we're making interest off money that we've got in a holding tank over here, but we're also paying interest off on the loans with that same money? Like, are these both the same situation? Where they don't really count, I would say?
Well, we have over $2 million in undesignated funds. So
Just from like saving over the years for SIP.
Well,
for anything,
Yeah, not just.
for any-
At some point, that's just another point I want to get on the record, and that we need to look at that. I mean, I know now that we've found the general fund data detail, it would be good for this committee to know the audited balance, how much of that balance is allocated to specific projects, what those specific projects are, and what is the unallocated portion of those dollars. I think that's something we should be
Well-
looking at all the time.
well, they will have that to us by July 1st.
July 1st, that's something that should be available now.
It's not mentioned with auditors. So whatever we found, not exactly mentioned with 2023, 2024 audit reports.
So the 2025 audit, we wouldn't see till July.
Correct.
No, I'm talking about what Baird is going to do with their new CPA. That they are going to audit all of the CIP accounts to make sure exactly how much money is in each one.
That's
Which
what I'm
is,
saying.
which is good. I agree with that completely, and maybe that will take longer than I think. But I understood from Adam's notes in some paperwork that I received that I think you distributed, Denise, that we found spreadsheets that gave us a description because.
Oh, yeah, from Tasha.
Right, because Vlad had raised a concern in meetings that he was not completely confident in the balance of the general fund or what the allocation was to specific projects. And it may not be perfect, but we found some documentation which is evidence of how that's supposed to be distributed.
Correct.
And now we're, it sounds like I didn't know this, we've hired Baird to audit that and give us the specifics. I think that's all a good thing. My question to probably Adam or Vlad is, why can't we see that sooner or rather than later to know the starting point?
And that's what I'm saying. So at the moment, we looked into the 2023 and 2024 and 2022. Whatever on that spreadsheet so far is not matching with end of the year audit reports for capital reserves. So we're gonna have to work on that deeper. So diving into general ledger and just like following the cash. So is that correct, Adam?
That's the intention, correct? Is the direction I think that we were given was to have Jenny, who's our new CPA we just brought on, is essentially going to have to do a deep dive as well as I am in looking into what you have versus what the auditors are, and then coming up with that report that, you know, we have a deadline of June, but we're hoping we can get it to you sooner. But that was the intention, is that we have a deadline of at least June 1st of next year to really kind of dive into all that and make sure we can get you something that is, you know, in line with what you need from the staff, from the auditors, and then also us as the financial advising side.
So Adam, I mean, if you're giving advice to our chairman,
Mhm.
do you have any concerns about how we utilize the general fund without that information? I mean, is it possible that we could be leveraging the general fund in a way that could cause us gas later on because we missed something?
So currently for the 2026 budget, we are not showing, I believe, if I remember correctly, that there is going to be a general fund transfer. You are not using the general fund surplus to essentially cover your budget for 2026. So that's why we're not advocating that, and that allows us then to look at that because we have the same concerns. We want to make sure that we have that right number so that if you are dipping into that, we want to make sure you have the accurate information to make that decision versus a speculative number.
Vlad, how far off were the numbers throughout the years?
Some years, like 2022, 100 to, it's arguable, probably between 100 to 200, and then it goes like either 4 or 5. It just,
100,000 swing
yeah.
in either direction.
So the idea is to figure out what was levied, what was reserved, then at some point, board or finance committee changed their mind, they decided not to use, then they used something else for other projects from reserve, and it's just like such a shuffle of money around, it just figure out.
Yeah,
Well, I don't want to be critical of previous boards or committees about how they use the money. I think it's just how we account for it that has to tighten up, right? I mean, that's what we got to do. I mean, we just need to make sure committees and the board have transparency and they understand the balance and they understand what's available to them to use in whatever fashion they need to, that's appropriate.
And I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to be critical.
No, I'm not, and I'm not dinging you. I'm just saying, I think it's important. Let me just summarize it this way. I think this is an important exercise that we use Baird for. We need to get this documented so that committees and boards can make better decisions in the future, confident that they know the balances of all of these accounts.
Of course, and I have.
Yeah, I know you. Thank you.
So the deadline of June is really just based on how long we think it's gonna take, sounds like.
Well, by the time the audit comes back.
Yeah. Okay.
For 25,
That's
I mean, they
end of
can,
first
they can
quarter.
start on all the other
Usually the end of-
years, but we won't have that till early spring.
Okay. Okay. I have a question about actually the new CPA.
I'm so sorry. Can we just, the question about the broadband interest as being available to possibly help fund SIP in 26? Are we leaving that in there or should we take that out as available money?
Adam, do you have an opinion on that?
So that is certainly there to use. So obviously, when you borrow the money, the intention, and this comes down to, again, this is kind of strategy, and this is also discussions for you as a finance committee, and also as the village as a whole, is if you want that interest to be applied directly to the debt, then it looks like historically what has been done is any interest that was earned for what was considered to be a capital project went directly into your CIP. If you want to have that interest that you're gaining go towards offsetting the debt, then that would be moved out of the CIP into the debt service. And that would then be a conversation of then you'd be using whatever interest you earn. You essentially would be levying less in your debt service fund then because you have interest. So there's municipalities that do it multiple ways. Some of it, if they gain interest, they will put it into the CIP to help offset either future capital projects that they want to do or continuing for those projects, or they make the decision then that they want to, any interest they earn, they want it to go back to the debt service fund to help pay off the debt sooner. It's
So
kind of
so
philosophical conversations, what you want to do.
that's the right way to describe it. So the way I heard you respond to Bridget's question, yeah, there's an expense there. It's pretty much equal to the 125. Now we have the interest, the 125. It would wash if we took the interest and we applied it to the debt service. But what you're saying is because the cost is already sitting in the debt service, we could use the 125 against the SIP. It's how we decide we want to use it.
Yeah, because it's not a guarantee that the interest you're going to earn is going to match the debt service payment that you need to make. You know, that's the difference on the
But
fund.
I'm saying that having looked at the schedules on
Yep.
the bond cost versus the interest earned. And when I do that, they're pretty close to equal.
Sure.
So your answer, I think we were asking kind of I get your answer. But I think we were asking, should we do it that way?
Yeah.
I think we
this-
should, and I'll tell you why. Go ahead,
Can I
Bob.
add something? As of right now, the debt service fund balanced with whatever the revenue streams we have. So by shifting around, then we're gonna have to balance the CAP. So it's
Right.
possible, but as of right now, it's balanced. So if you take a look on debt service fund, which is, so there are other revenue streams such as property taxes.
Do you know what page that's on? Sorry. Glenn.
But-
Are you, oh, you're not on the same. page we are.
But I think where we're getting at is that if I really think about this, if we wanted to offset the debt service, even though it balances, it would reduce the debt service by the amount that we moved over there, and it would leave a gap in SIP, which would mean we either fund it some other way or we reduce the projects to take the number down. You got options. The question is, which one do we use? I get it.
Correct, but there's little but in that thing. Again, the debt fund already balanced.
I get that it
But
does.
it balanced with TIF money, which needs to go to the debt service only. So if you take, if you're gonna grab interest from broadband and move into debt service, it's gonna be overfunded.
I get it.
And
But my point is, and you're right, we should do it the way you're suggesting. But my point is, we could make the decision
yeah.
to go the other way,
Yeah, 100%.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, correct.
No,
I'll leave it at
yeah, I
that.
think there's something wrong with it, but I would. never-
Well, the argument a lot of people would make is that you put the income where the expense is, you'd actually put them in the same account. But I hear Adam saying either one's acceptable, it's how this committee wants to make what decision this committee wants to make, and either are allowable. That's what I heard.
I did too. I just, to me, I feel like that, I understand why it makes sense, and because we're trying to move TIF money back over. Because it was spent in previous years and now we're reimbursing. I'm just saying, going forward, I think this is kind of a false number, like you're saying. It looks like you've got this $125,000 you can spend on projects, but in reality. It should be going towards its own payment. Yeah, I mean, you could, and that would reduce your debt service payments. also. I mean, you're spending this $125,000 no matter what. I'm just saying it should be coded as going towards the interest payment on its own loan instead of
But that's one of
coded
the,
as a project, like money you can use for something else. It would be like, if one of my kids is like, oh, I took out this loan and I have all this money, I'd be like, well, no, you still have to pay the loan off. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like you've got this money to spend, but you really don't, because you have all these expenses in the background that's what I'm just saying. I didn't want it to look like we've got all this interest to spend on these loans. We really have to pay off the interest on the loans.
I think, Bridget, though, where I agree with the way Vlad's doing it, because what you're saying is very logical, especially if we weren't gonna continue the bond. But we are gonna continue the bond,
Mhm.
which means we're gonna continue to have the expense and we're gonna continue to earn interest until we start to utilize the bond for the project, whatever that project might be. And we should use that bond to offset taxpayer expenses wherever we can, and we would be doing that in this case, I think.
And it most likely gonna go back that way, the way you suggested, probably even. And I'm not sure what
After
we
the
did.
TIF catches up.
Yeah, probably next year, there gonna be less payback to the debt service. So at some point, there will be a shortage. And that's when you can start using the broadband interest to offset the debt.
Yeah, and obviously if we use the loan next year, we won't have this interest coming in, and so there's still gonna be the
Right.
interest payment no matter what. So I totally understand what you're saying, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I knew that this wasn't just extra money coming from you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't want it to just look like free money sitting there.
Yep.
there is no such thing.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, you're asking all the right questions and you're thinking all the right things, because this is what plays into, levy limits and the levy limit worksheet for municipalities. Is, when you move something from one and you all are, you have the right future mindset, is, eventually, those TIF payments that are either going into these funds, they're not always going to be there. So when that happens, that's going to cause some future conversations as a village of, just like you said, is okay, well, what is an acceptable projects that we want to take on that's either going to have to, raise the debt service or lower things there. So you're all looking at those right kind of conversations and questions to think about in the future.
So, Adam, I had a quick question just about the CPA about Jenny. So is
Yeah.
that, do we have a new contract with you that includes the CPA, or is that, because you said you have a new, and I remember you discussing that there was a program you were putting in place or adding a CPA to the firm. So is that new for you guys, and how does it affect us, and is it in our budget?
Yeah, so that is something that we just brought on a new employee within the last month. Her name is Jenny Engel. She used to be an auditor with Kerber Rose, and then for the last 20 years, she actually worked for the USDA doing kind of loan reviews and kind of audits and everything else for water and sewer projects throughout the state. So she has been brought in now as us. Now, obviously, we have an existing contract with you for this year to assist with obviously anything related to budget and accounting or this. So if there are hours that obviously we didn't utilize, potentially we could move that to cover this kind of review that we're going to be doing. Or we'd have to talk about, if it's something that is going to be substantially more, we'd look at, having discussions about a contract for that additional work that we think would need to be done. But right now we're looking at, we have an existing contract, so we're going to see kind of where we fall with the remaining hours of that. And if we can put, some of that into there, we will. Otherwise, then we'll have some future conversations if we exceed that, what that means.
Okay, and our contract is is it on a calendar year, or is it a fiscal, or?
It's a yearly basis, so it goes calendar year, and it's an hourly contract not to exceed. And then if it goes over that, we have some conversations about, at what point we need to kind of re-up that.
Right, thanks.
You asked me what page I was, page 43, debt service and budget.
Oh, thank you.
Next question.
Well, I guess this is still showing up in the deck under capital project fund reserves, but the question I had is on page 9 of the packet. We show the year ending on December 31st, 24. I would have thought we'd have a column there with the full year forecast for 25. We have about 75 days left. So I would have thought we would have had the forecast in there. And the other thing I noticed, and maybe I'm wrong, but I looked at the general line of this and it's not matching the auditor's report, which I also have with me, that was published on for the 24 fiscal year. So some of the numbers are the same, some are different. And I wasn't sure why that was. When I looked here and then looked further in the link to the PDFs that were listed at the bottom of the packet. So as an example, if we look at the 26 village budget, a couple of weird things here. I mean, this must just be your working copy because it says Village of Sister Bay 26 annual budget and it says approved on the 17th, November 17th of 2025. I'm assuming that was, I'm not sure what, we haven't got.
Preemptive, so that they go and make
Preemptive.
changes as they go, and then that's when
Yeah.
it goes to the
Okay.
board, I think.
Right.
To approve.
But then when I look at the 24 actuals here, they aren't always lining up with the audit report, and I was wondering why that was. We can look at it later if we want, but in
On
some
page
cases,
9,
either on page 9
that's 2024, year
Right.
ended 2024.
and the report that's on the link, there's a column for year-end actuals 2024, and they don't match these numbers for 2024. I was wondering why, and they also don't match the
That would be
2024
odd
budget.
question.
Audit.
So they, in their calculations, they're using. Okay, so the budget is accrual based. The way they run in their reports, they have a little bit different twist on it.
Is it cash basis?
Right.
Adam, do you guys run yours cash basis or accrual?
So the budget accrual reports cash basis, so it has principles. That's all I can tell you.
It would show up differently, for
Yeah.
sure, but I think we should do them the same way.
I mean, what, the reason I'll lead to why I asked this question, and it's beyond the SIP. When I look at the levy, I expected the levy for 26 to be lower. Based on 24 full year actuals and the best guess I could make at 25 forecast.
Which is lower.
It is lower, but I thought it would be lower than it is. It's because some of the numbers don't make sense to me.
Well,
And it starts with the audit report.
at
I
our
mean,
Last meeting, we did add in 150,000 for bathrooms.
I might have missed some things.
We did sale for 10,000. What else did we? Was there something else that we added in? I know the bathrooms was the big one. Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what the other thing was. But I feel like something else was changed. That came up.
Again, I missed the last meeting, but the meeting I was at previously, it looked like we were pretty seriously gonna see a reduction in the property tax levy, which would have reduced property tax bills for the village of Sister Bay. And the way I'm reading this right now, Adam, and I could be reading it wrong, it looks like
Sure.
it's kind of flat.
No, it's
The
going,
mill rate's
No.
down, mill rate's down,
Yes.
but will the tax rate, will tax bills go down for individual citizens?
well, that is the.
Based
mill
on,
rate.
yes, based on this, if this is adopted by the village board and submitted, it's showing that in last year, your finalized mill rate was 4.2 million,
Right?
which generated a mill rate of $5.24.
Yep.
What this is showing is the estimate is now you're going to have a finalized levy of just about over $4 million, which is going to put the finalized mill rate at $4.86. So you are reduced, so they're going to see a reduction in their taxes for the village only portion of the tax bill.
And then what total revenue is that generating? Maybe I messed that number up when I was looking at this. Compared to
So-
the 25 number versus 26.
Yeah, so the total, I think, let me actually go to the.
That on the top of the page here?
Yeah, in the packet, it should be page,
10?
I think 10. So you can see there, the total estimated final levy is $4,011,386.51.
And what was it last year?
Last year it was, that is on page 5. So if you go to page 5 of the packet, you can see there, that's in that tax increment worksheet. The total
Yeah.
levy amount used is $4,212,509.86.
So it's around what I thought, $200,000.
Yes.
So, and you actually raised it in the last one, you said, so it would have been down even more. Okay,
Correct, but there were some items that were requested to be put in. Yes.
Right, so we added 10,000 in for new meeting chairs, 10,000 for sale. We did the 75,000 for engineering, 25,000 for parks contingency, and the 150,000 in the SIP for marina bathrooms for 2 years.
okay,
That's what we
that was my
budgeted.
bad. That was my
Can we
bad.
move something out of it too, though, to make up for some of that?
We did slide
Yeah,
some things in the SIP.
yeah, so it wasn't just all of that was just put in, there were
Yeah.
things that were moved out of that year also.
Okay, so that's the net, but the net is if everything goes as planned, we'll reduce Sister Bay Village residents' taxes, property tax, the property tax, the Sister Bay line on their property tax.
Yeah.
We don't know what's gonna happen with the county, the technical colleges, or what's the other one, county technical colleges,
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar schools.
School district.
And another thing to consider, as long the value of the house stays the same.
Well, that's a good point, because the valuations in general were up 3%, right, the total line in the analysis.
And they're being, we're having a reval next year also.
Next year, but for this particular exercise.
But let's say if neighbors are selling around, so it's gonna affect your house.
Right, but the number I'm using is the one that I think the county used with the TIF calculation. They increased the value 3%, which was roughly the rate of inflation, which I'm assuming would be about, you're saying
As
the
long-
valuations of the homes stay the same unless there was a buy or a sell, correct?
Correct, it might affect yours if neighbors selling around,
Okay,
so if, let's say, few houses
yeah,
got sold for whatever the price, like 25% increase, so it's gonna affect your house as
Yeah.
well.
yeah, okay.
Then you will see the.
But our levy is actually less.
That's the part that I think is good, Denise, because you might have those individual examples that are kind of anomalies, but the total is down.
The reassessment next year, is that something that the village asks for, or is that just something? the
By
state
law, we
does?
have to
choice.
do it when we fall out of compliance with the state.
Yeah, like Surgeon Bay just went through there.
Oh, whatever, I was gonna say.
Because we just did a reval, when was our reval? 1 year, 2 years
It was
ago?
only a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was only a couple of years ago.
I'll make our front yards look like crap.
No, no,
Oh,
no,
they'll do it.
no.
Big decorations down.
Well, I think if we can lower taxes on our end, at least you can stand by that statement. Everything else is an outside force that you can't control.
That's correct.
So,
True. So the mill rate last year was. $5.
5235759
Okay, and this year, 486?
485567.
485, so I just did $4.80, 486.
So I had one of the spreadsheets that I had handed out to you at I
Yeah,
think our last meeting. And I reworked it, because I'd used the numbers at the time with where we thought we were. Now I've updated it and obviously it has changed. So, the last time we met, it was gonna be about $26 of savings per $100,000 of value.
Uh-huh.
Now we're at 38 per $100,000 of value. And the average home in Sister Bay is worth $450,000.
We depend on what you look at, but yeah.
Right, on a $500,000 home, the taxpayer, if everything else stays the same, on Sister Bay's side, their taxes would be reduced $190.
That's what I got.
That's progress.
And I'm gonna write this up on the board, just because I don't think everybody has that sheet from
Last meeting?
last meeting. There's homework.
So on the handout from the last meeting, you're saying your 2640 savings number per 100,000 is now 38 what? 38. Adam, while Denise is doing this, have you kind of looked at these numbers and vetted them?
Yes, that's kind of what I've been working with Vlad on, and again, we'll keep doing that until obviously the public hearing to make sure that all the numbers continue to match what you're looking to try to do.
So this was our tax rate that was payable in 2024. 004727. If we stayed within, if the 3% increase that we have been working with in the past, in 2025, it would have been 4869107. Instead it was the 0.0053. Okay, but if we would have done that, that would give us this number. Then for 26, if we added another 3%, we'd be at 0.00501518. And this is our actual. So we are below a 3% increase over 3 years. And I just wanted to point that out because that has always been kind of the goal, or where staff was directed to go when they were trying to figure out their numbers. Keep it at 3% or below. And so I just thought for those of you that haven't been here in the past, and that was kind of the ask, not the rule, not always what it ended up being or whatever, but we're doing good because we are still below if we would have done it 3% every year. I just wanted to share.
That's great. I think the only thing we also have to know that our citizens keep comparing that mill rate to the other villages and towns in Door County, and we're still a little on the high end even at our current numbers. So I mean, that's just
But you
something
can't
to think about in
compare
the
us,
future.
you can't compare us to a town though. You can compare us to the village of Ephraim or to
Okay,
some
Harvard.
extent.
Yeah, I
Village
agree.
of
I agree. That's
Because the
fair.
county does a lot of stuff for the towns that they don't have.
You're probably right. We should probably hone our story on that. You're probably right. It would be to compare the villages, and there's only what, 4 of them, maybe 5 of them. I don't know.
Villages, 3.
3. Egg Harbor, Ephraim, Sister Bay. Is that it?
this number that we have our actual,
Yeah.
could the TIDs still swing that?
No, that's with the TID,
It's in.
the TID's in.
So when you
Okay,
look
I
up-
didn't know, I knew they, I didn't know if that was like the estimate, cause last year, I remember at the last minute, the TID swung it and we didn't know. So I just
No,
wanted to
we've
make
done
sure
the
this
TID
is like the
worksheet.
final.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know if that was.
no,
like
this is not the
projected to
final,
work-
final,
You
because
won't get the
the-
final until it's too late.
Well, that's what I mean, can the final TID number change
Can still change.
from what
Well,
we have here?
except the estimate that we got on August 15th from the state. It's pretty rare that that's gonna be
Yeah.
a big swing.
No, the only thing really now, I mean, we should be pretty close to your estimate. The only thing that would swing anything would be your assessed value. That's the one thing that could change because technically that's not finalized till the end of this month. So that's kind of the only piece. Again, we don't anticipate, I think with the information, I haven't heard anything that you're anticipating any large swings, but now that we have a separate kind of TID calculation built into your spreadsheets that wasn't there in the past, it's now calculating those TID numbers to try to get you as close to accurate as possible.
Okay, I didn't know if they could come back in a month or two and be like, just kidding, you guys.
well,
This
it's
is
just
what-
not final till the end of the
November.
month.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we, our valuation, has that ever gone way beyond what we thought it was gonna be?
Well, when the state mandated valuation change, how many years ago was it? That one was pretty significant. But that was what, 3 years ago?
During the COVID,
Yeah,
or right after.
right after COVID, yeah. But I don't know, there are parts of the country where valuations are going down right now.
That'd be great. I don't
Well,
Yeah,
know.
that's not gonna happen in
Yeah.
Door County. It is not gonna happen.
Okay, so based on everything we could possibly know at this time, that's probably what it's gonna be.
We're gonna be in that ballpark.
Yeah, okay, awesome.
So does this committee want to make a recommendation to the board on redistributing the broadband load to the administration building,
Reallocated?
reallocating, redistributing?
Can I just ask you a question? Because I think I'm gonna vote yes, but if something would happen, you know, that we would just have to revisit it again, right? So if there was some other need, more urgent need for the money, this committee or the board could reallocate again or not. I'm just not sure how fast we're gonna be able to apply it to the administration building. So I'm just thinking
It
about
might not even-
contingencies.
The way things are going, it probably won't even happen next year.
But let's say it didn't and it happens in 27, we're still okay, we would just earn more interest. Okay,
And when you look at is, you look at, like, what did we move out of the SIP, right? That could be a well, we moved 3.5 million in Wiltie out of the SIP. And it's not something that is gonna immediately come back into the SIP that you might wanna reallocate this money, you know? That, you look at big ticket items and what's out there. That really isn't something, I mean, there's something catastrophic and unforeseen that no one could foresee, but otherwise.
one question for Adam. Is there any time limit on our options with that bond and the 3 alternatives that exist?
Let me double check.
While Adam's
I-
checking, I just wanna talk about,
I don't believe so, Mike, but that's a question I'll just circle back with Justin on just to make sure.
That would be good.
I don't see anything in the analysis that we ran that shows like there has to be a deadline or a time frame, but I can circle back and then have Vlad, I'll send something to Vlad and then he can obviously send it back out to the finance committee.
Thank you.
to circle back to, the changes on the 5,000 for the housing attorney and the 75,000 for the phase 1 site design or whatever. You're starting that ball rolling. So where are you going to get the $4 million for infrastructure?
I know.
Where are you going to put it in there?
I thought, okay, I know this is just discussion, right? So I'm looking at the thing, and even if one of my properties wasn't on it, I would still have the same discussion. So Eagle Mechanical, Devilly, our property, Warfels property, all the way to the corner of the Past Museum. That all has to get sewer and water at some point. And so Megan's written up a proposal on how that happens. We, as owners of those properties, have to absorb that cost. As of right now, there's nothing in any budget to help absorb was it $2 million or $4 million
But it
or
was
more?
4 million.
To absorb any of that money other than the property owners.
That's the way it works.
Right, but I'm saying, how come it works like that for us? But for the Wiltsey property, the taxpayers have to pay all that money. How come that can't be absorbed by the houses that go on it?
Because,
Especially if there's going to be so many.
because then
houses.
they don't become affordable.
They won't build.
The developer will not be able to build a $300,000 home.
I'm just,
So
I understand
there's
part of
the
that.
other part is that, the village will get the tax increment over that. That most likely, I would imagine if we would, set it up, that would offset that debt.
What do you mean?
If we created a TIF out there, is that what you mean?
We talked about it one time, but then all of a sudden there was a shift and we were over the percentages. And
Yes,
so, correct?
right, yeah, I mean, the sewer and water, though, should be like the core of what a TID was set up to put in place, right? Right, and that is the heart of why a TID would be in place, is to promote commercial development within the TID. And without sewer and water, you can't promote, I mean, no one's gonna wanna, invest commercially without sewer and water, because it's like the base piece of the infrastructure. So, in my opinion, that should be covered by, TID funding, based on what we're trying to do within the TID.
On the Wilsey property, you mean?
No, on all TIDs. TID 1, TID 2, right?
So the
Is this
downtown.
property
We have
TID 2?
not, we have not done that with our TIDs. We have footed the bill. And even with or without a TID, the utilities will foot the bill. But it is the property owners that pay it back over 10 years. And now, and even with the TID, we have not given any of that money to any developer. Or put in any infrastructure for any individual.
Right, which is fine. If you're not using the TID for anybody, then you're not. But I'm saying for the Wiltsey property, if you are gonna make this set of taxpayers pay for all of their own infrastructure, I understand that you want it to be affordable housing, so maybe you extend the payback period over 20 years. And now that is included in here's the price of the home. You also have a 20-year payout. There's small payments each month, but this is what it costs to put in your sewer and water. And it should be much less because it's all on one property. You're not running hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet. And if you're talking about putting houses close together, they should be relatively small. But I'm saying, if you can set it up in a way where people who are buying and owning homes here have a stake in the game too, just like everybody else who already pays taxes, I think that's the more fair route. So that the taxpayers aren't paying for their own sewer and water, and then also paying for the sewer and water of a bunch of other people too. If we're talking fairness, and I think it may be to make it affordable, it's 30 years, but I think it should be something.
I think the conversation that we had at the time is that the Village of Sister Bay pretty much is, other than a couple of projects in Sturgeon Bay, is the only community really trying to address housing.
We're the only ones that can because we have sewer and water.
And so in order to help our community, our businesses, and just the people that live here to give them a workforce. It was discussed at that point in time that it kind of takes a village for this project. And
And I agree
that's,
with that. But you're giving the land already. You're trying to build the houses in a very affordable way by building multiples at one time, so economies of scale. I don't know that the taxpayer should have to burden a $3 to $4 million project. The roads, certain, the village pays for that everywhere else. But the sewer and the water, that's also gonna be a big portion of that expense. I think if you're building enough homes, I don't think that cost per person moving into those homes will be cheap. I'm just saying, I think it's something to reconsider, because
you might want to
we,
take that back to the housing committee.
we don't have $4 million in the budget to do the Wiltie property infrastructure right now.
No, we took it out of the SIP.
We might be able to pull it from the streets budget and make the Wiltsey streets a priority if that gets ready sooner, because all the other streets are in existence right now.
And
Like nothing's, there's only a couple that are falling apart and,
Oh, there's a lot more.
but you know what I mean, like they're drivable. If you need to get streets in Wiltsey, okay,
all right, maybe there's a creative, I would agree.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
is there a way
I
to
saw that
creatively
estimate and I'm like,
figure it?
okay, so we all have to. I don't care how much money you have, it feels unfair to make one section of people pay an exorbitant amount to get sewer and water. And make another group of people pay nothing. And the other people are paying theirs too, so now we're paying 2 sets of sewer and water if you own one of those properties, you know what I mean?
I
kind
hear
of
what you,
feels
I
like
hear what
We've
you,
all paid for it in the past, though,
But for yourselves,
that already have sewer and water.
right, you
We
paid
paid
for
for it when it went past our house at the
Right, and
time.
now you're gonna pay for another whole neighborhood sewer and water.
Right. I don't have a problem with that as somebody on the low end of the middle class. Because I think it's important, and I think that's how a lot of locals feel. Is that this is trying to build our community so that all the other people moving up here will have people in the businesses to service them. That Husby's will have staff, that I will have staff, you know, at the gas station, that. Because if we will get to a point, a tipping point, where. Well, I think it already happened, started with COVID, and a lot of businesses didn't open back up either the same amount of hours or 7 days a week. And you will see more pullback, and that's not good for a community. And so I feel like it was, we feel that it's an investment.
I think it's an important discussion. I do, and I see both sides here. If I could suggest just for today, because I think the village needs to weigh in a little bit more on this, and it's starting to with the housing committee.
I can ask.
The suggestion that we hire a lawyer to help us understand if we can even do what we want to do, I think is a really good one.
In terms of
And
restrictions.
it sounds like we all agree on, let's get a lawyer to find out if we could do this.
Mhm.
And then I think the second part is the discussion Bridget and Denise are having is an important discussion that probably, you know, we need to have that with more residents in the village, because I hear very much both sides on this, Denise.
I think it's. I don't want this to be combative, what I'm going to say.
Sure.
I just want to clarify it. Before I say it, because it might come out wrong or whatever, but there is a very different way. That if you were born and raised here. On how you feel about what goes on in your community. Versus if you weren't. And that's about as nice as I can.
Well,
probably-
and I respect that opinion, but the community is the people who live here today.
Oh, no doubt.
And
It's
the people that
combination
live
of
here
all
today
of
and
that.
contribute to it today have a diverse view of opinions on this, and it's not aligned in any way that's logical. I mean, people are worried about developing the community too fast and too many people moving in too quickly. Business owners are very concerned about the same concerns you have. about staff and affordability and getting people here who can work in their businesses. My only point is, you're having a valuable discussion. I think we really need to focus on this over the next year, on this discussion. And we may never get perfect alignment, but we need to get a little further along in ensuring that we've listened to the voices in the community about how we do this going forward. That's all I'm saying. And it's not in the budget right now for next year. We could set aside the 75,000, and if we make some progress, we've got a placeholder there for it. We certainly should look at the legal piece. But I don't think this conversation is gonna end today. I think it's gonna have to continue, is all I'm saying.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
So I have a question. Let's say that, because we did discuss this and I still think it's really valid. What if we do rentals out there, high density rentals, whether it's 3 stories high or whatever the heck it is? And so we bring sewer and water out there and we brought it out there, you gotta pay. Who pays if it's a rental property, if it's an apartment building? You know, I'm not being, who would pay?
The owner,
Whoever developed the apartment building.
right, in which in
Got it.
turn they would charge then their
They just make it
renters.
into
Yeah.
rent. Yeah, okay. Okay, well, let me find out. I'd like to talk to Tom about, because another question I had too. I wondered, because a lot of people, you know, someone said this, concerned about bringing people here, because if you build it, they will come, right, kind of thing. And then what are the costs involved with that? And that has to do with just maintenance and things like that, but also, developing properties like that. So let's say it's, you put 100 homes there over 10 years or 5 years or whatever the heck it is. What effect does that have on our property taxes?
That would have to be modeled, but you could calculate it pretty easily.
I just wondered, but there's revenue. I got it, but is there any negative impact? from
There's a lot of negative impact also, because we have 2 entrances to the property, one on ZZ, one on Scandia.
Mhm.
I know Allison Warner was very concerned, as she lives on Scandia.
Yep.
On, what kind of traffic that would be.
Yep.
And we talked about that should also be on our radar as a side conversation about Wilsey. Because that road probably, Nate will, disagree with me or whatever, but be widened, probably striped, maybe have a path. Or
A bike path. Mhm.
maybe not a
Or
bike
foot.
path, but a paved shoulder
Yeah.
to walk on. So there's, that cost,
Mhm.
because it will be traveled more.
Yeah.
Depending upon how you work it out, and I would imagine that we're gonna come in off of Scandia before we have the remediation done on ZZ and that expense.
Right, because that's just, off ZZ is gonna be a road most of the way. Maybe through the, no, we're getting off track, but, okay, let me talk to Tom.
Okay.
And not me, I'll pose questions, and, he was very kind, he said, I'll come back anytime, he said, I can do some work for you if you want me to. It's great. It was huge, you guys should listen to them. It's worth a listen for an hour and a half, smart guy, and you can also see the PowerPoint. But it's not posted yet, whoever's posting that. Sorry, I don't mean to put anything on anybody, but the housing committee video, if that could go up, that would be great. But I know we were having some technical difficulties with some of that stuff. Not on you guys at all. But and then once he sends the PowerPoint, that's a good thing to be shared with everybody, but you'll be able to see the PowerPoint during the video. He's also going to send Julie a couple different models.
Okay.
Mhm.
May I interject I don't know if this is a point of order, but, I started asking, does this committee make recommendation to reallocate broadband funds to administration building? I didn't know if that's something that needed to be.
Do we have general consensus that we want to forward that to the board?
Yeah, I think so,
Yeah.
or at least reallocate to the next
Yeah.
large project that comes up,
Yeah.
assuming it will be the administration.
Yeah, I.
Yes,
no,
the question I was asking that Adam's gonna still follow up on is if there's a time constraint. You know, if it would go on too long, is there any negative financial impact? He didn't think so. And that was the only concern I had.
And the
So
other thing was that.
pending his unless he would give us negative feedback, I agree that I think it was Denise's original recommendation that we reallocate it.
I think also we talked about the fact that I think there were three different ways that we could reallocate or do something with that 3.3 million. I think you're gonna do a quick little. Here's your
A
options.
little chart
Yeah,
that would
best
be,
thing to do,
go to the
so.
board, and on that chart, he could
Have
list
option.
whether or not there's any statute of limitations or time limit
Yeah. Yeah, then the board.
on it expiring or, you know.
Okay.
Was that
we have
enough for
general
you? I'm sorry.
consensus, that's a recommendation to the village. Okay. Thank you, Jude. All right, where are we?
I think we gotta go through that letter from, don't we still have to go through the letter from Megan? This is
Did
for
we
SIP.
Well,
well, with the SIP in the budget?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Okay, I thought we finished the SIP, no?
I think we finished the
Yes.
SIP. I had a question on the budget.
Okay, good.
Can I mention?
Not the
something?
budget.
Yeah, yeah.
The reason why I included Megan's letter, just because her CAP went up.
Mhm.
And that just explains why, and
Mhm.
that's pretty much it. All of that was approved by utility committee. And again, just reason it's included because it.
It's just an FYI.
And that's in the SIP we just looked at as well, correct?
Correct. She also asked me to update all of the forms and spreadsheets, which went into main master file.
So I'm sorry, so are we adding a line item to the SIP chart that's in the packet today? For water, wastewater, is that what you're saying?
It was already added.
It's already in.
Oh, okay.
It used to be at 110.
It was an
and it changed
explanation
to
about why
250, So I
wastewater
updated
went
everything
up
until later
from the
was
previous
Okay.
SIP.
included as explanation.
What page are you on, Bridget?
I'm sorry, I was looking at the SIP where he was
Oh.
just talking about it. Page numbers aren't on the printed one. Hold. It is probably an easy answer and I'm just not looking at it correctly.
Are you looking at the budget?
I'm looking at the budget.
So Vlad, for me, on page 8 of the packet, where we have this proposed 2026 SIP expenditures of 851. Which one is Megan talking about? Because I'm not sure I see it.
It's not there. It's going to be in
And how much is it?
so it went up from 110 to 250. So if you're gonna look into second, the whole CAP file, which is going to be
220? Oh, no.
which is going to be first link at on page 11. So it's going to be under.
So is this outside of 2026?
No, it's in 2026, just on utility side. which
And
is
because
not
it's an
funded by-
enterprise fund, it didn't
It-
show up on
Correct.
on that list?
Yes, it's enterprise fund, utility. So,
So is it sanitary sewer extension?
yes, sanitary
So-
sewer extension, which used to be 110, now it's 250. The first finding on that on page
Page-
100.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
but I don't,
and it's split in two sections, collections and water.
so I see the 250 in sanitary sewer extension for 2026.
What
don't
page
see
are
it
you on,
for any other
Bridget?
year. That's page 100. I just see it for the 1 year. I don't see it added, but maybe you're
And
saying
then
it's in water.
page 114, water extension, 250 again.
Water
Whatever.
extension, but that is just for, so that's just in 2026, that just talks about phase 1 that she's talking about. So
Correct.
she didn't adjust any other year after that.
I mean, should probably have a plan for that, but it was not incorporated into master CAP.
Okay.
I think where we have to be careful as a finance committee and a board, the enterprise funds, primarily the water wastewater facility, our residents look at that as a tax, and they do worry already that water and wastewater is pretty pricey here. So my question is, the way we've done our estimates on the property tax impact, is Megan doing the same thing, and do we have detail on the impact on water wastewater bills for our residents?
They do have a model provided by CLA. It's a cash flow model. So technically they're figuring out the fees based on their cash flow. And that's why the increase went in place, because just to justify the operation cash flow for wastewater and collection. So since those fees going to be recuperated, I believe not going to affect any increase. So
Any rate increase.
any rate
Okay.
increase.
All right, so I mean, other than this 250 number, the capital numbers aren't that big and don't look that inconsistent. It's the 250 that does stick out a little bit. And she starts with 26 and doesn't show history in her analysis on page 100. So we may want to ask her in the future to at least include the previous year or two when she gives this to us, so we can do a sensitivity analysis.
And I'm pretty sure going forward that there will be more information, but that's what she shared right now.
Does she have a different finance person, or do you support her, Glad?
No, I support her with what I know and what I can.
Okay,
One thing about utility, it's very complex subject. It's easier to educate utility director into their finances than somebody coming from outside and diving into utility and figuring out effect. I mean, I'm helping with general ledger, like filing USDA reports, putting things together. But as far as what exactly needed for utility, it's new to me. The simplest way to.
so the question is, because we're in this process where we're trying to approve the CIP to go to the board, I think we're in pretty good alignment around the CIP that's been presented here. But we didn't really look at a specific CIP for water wastewater. Do we need to do that and approve it or not? Is that a different process?
No, it's just all part of the,
It's all, and it's in what we looked at. Her letter is just a way of explaining the difference between what it was last time and what it is now.
Okay,
And historical, because it's a user-based program.
taxpayers, users, yes.
So what I'm trying
well,
to say,
okay, I'm
Sometimes.
gonna be a little crass here. Do they want water or not? We did a study, not that many years ago on what our rates were compared to other communities, and we were kind of right in the middle. We weren't
Okay.
low, we were high,
Okay,
so.
Yeah, everybody's raising there. I mean, it's not,
okay,
nobody loves it, but
I don't know why I just thought that's, but if there's a new commercial property, and I'm talking admin building, the corner of the past museum, whatever it is there an option to put in a well?
No,
So
You must
you are
hook
a
up.
commercial property, you have to, so you're required to do.
If
village
it
sewer.
goes past your property, yes.
But what if it doesn't already? I'm talking about ones that have nothing yet. Are you required?
Well, we have
Full
properties in
village sewer
Sister
line.
Bay that still are on well.
Right, but I'm saying if you are a new,
I don't know the answer to
Building.
that.
are you
So a new
required
building-
to extend sewer and water, or can you put in a well and a septic?
If there isn't already,
Or whatever it is.
if there isn't already sewer and water there, is that what you mean?
Yeah, if there's no sewer and water and you're a new commercial building going up, like the admin building or whatever goes along that line, or even Debtley's, are they required to put in a well?
Oh, for
Or-
that,
or
for that kind of
sewer and water.
development, they have to.
I
put
mean,
in sewer and
any
water.
building, any building. Or could you use a well and a mound system? Are you required
Maybe
to?
for a
extend
home,
sewer?
I don't think commercial.
I'm just curious what the rules are. I can also, that's a side conversation I can ask Julie too.
So just one minor suggestion, maybe for next year, Vlad, we should list the capital projects for the marina and the water wastewater department kind of in list the same way we did for the village.
Well, I just did it for the village.
Yeah.
It was work I did.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for doing that, but I think we should probably do that in the future.
Okay, probably easy question. The draft budget 2026, that was one of the links in the packet. I'm on page 4.
Are we good with SIP?
I'm good with SIP as it's presented in the deck. With the modifications Denise has
Sorry.
proposed, which includes $5,000 for legal and reallocation of the track list for possible housing engineering or some type of analysis.
See, I don't have page numbers on the PDF.
It's like, it's probably have to follow this.
Okay, page 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
and I'm fine with SIP too, just to say it, okay.
Before we go to the budget, are we just going by consensus or how are we finalizing this discussion on the SIP? I'd like to understand that.
We can make a motion when all of our conversation is done that we recommend as presented and amended.
Okay, I thought we were moving to the budget. I thought we were done with SIP, so we're not.
Well, we can do, just in case, we'll do them both at the
All
same
right,
time.
good idea. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Bridget, go ahead.
no, totally fine. On page 4, top line item taxes. Maybe I'm just having, it's a Monday. So look. December 31st, 2025 projected taxes. 6 million, just over $6 million. Where is that number coming from? I thought our taxes were closer to 3 that were coming in. Or no, our December 31st projected taxes, next page, 2,600,000 plus.
What page are you on, Bridget?
So I'm looking at the difference between page 4 and page 5, the taxes.
Under revenue is the tax line.
That's the combination of all. General rent. There's a debt, capital, Pratt. T1 and T2, so
Even when I look at total revenues on page 5, it's 3,800,000. So it's not even close to that $6 million number. I'm just so confused where that came from. I'm sure there's a,
and that's what I'm
Good
saying,
reason.
it's combination of all taxes. There is an increment that goes like 790,000 goes into the debt. Which is part of the levy taxes, then if there's portion goes into T1 and T2, that's the easiest way. I can just show you how it's calculated. So you get into general summary.
right,
So what was budgeted in 2025 due to the jump into the TID. So it covers general revenue, capital portion of taxes, which is sometimes it's zero, sometimes there is something. Also covers TID and TID two. So we're going to.
Vlad, let me, if you look on page 3, all village funds, is that where you're looking, Vlad?
He's got the calculations. All.
No. Not that one.
Oh, wait, is this what you were looking at? Is this just like the summary of it? No, because that's way over 6 million.
That's fund balances.
Yeah.
So it summarized the whole,
I think page 3 would help you that, but flat, I agree.
I mean, if everybody else sees where it's coming
I just-
from.
No, I've been confused by that too, because the property tax revenue line plan that we're essentially approving is $2.6 million.
Right.
Other taxes, 58,000, intergovernmental or state revenue sharing, and 245, 250. Charges,
That's
services,
just for the general fund.
just for the general fund, it goes up to 3.768.
taxes.
So then you,
And then the question I
have
think she's asking is,
So it's got things in it.
the 790,000 is not in that number
okay,
for debt. And then you have probably tip that's not in there.
Yeah. Tip 1 and tip 2.
$190,000 levied again.
That's probably the biggest difference is with TID 1 and TID 2, that calculation is pulling all of the taxing jurisdictions' taxes, not just not just your village portion.
Yeah, I just kind of made that assumption without asking any questions, but I get why Bridget's
That's a
asking.
portion for increment.
Because later on in the deck, you go to that bigger number and you're like, where is it coming from?
That's all of the,
Mhm.
That's the next school, county and, tax school.
So this isn't what's available to the village. The Big Sky County and everything.
Yes, yeah, but just because they did part of the TID. So that's why it's much higher than.
Okay, governmental funds, I thought that was the village. That's why I was confused. I was like, certainly our tax income isn't that high.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thank
And
you.
if you would like, I can send you this, you can just break the formulas down, and follow the numbers.
Okay, oh, okay,
Would you like it?
sure, thank you. That was the only glaring question.
Louise or Mike, other questions on the budget?
I do not.
Is there a chance the TID valuation could decrease? Would it be next year? If it comes back, you know,
I mean, that is essentially, it's possible. It depends on what happens with kind of projects and assessments. And that's really what caused, I mean, that was some of the correction issues that kind of happened over the last 2 years, where you saw one year you had a massive increase, and then this year it essentially corrected. So hopefully
Yeah.
not, but it can I mean, it varies from year to year. 'Cause
yeah,
usually you hope to see it stabilize where it doesn't do that, but part of the issue is, in fairness to the assessors, is as you notice with properties, they're fluctuating so much, it's hard to get a good estimate of where somebody thinks, what the value of this property is today versus 6 months from now. So
right.
when they're trying to do that, in fairness to them, when they're trying to come up with it, they're doing their best estimate, and sometimes they're dead on, and sometimes, unfortunately, it is drastically either overstated or understated, and it causes this problem.
Yeah, okay. But, there's hopefully it'll be similar to this
Right.
year, right? Because if it isn't and it's
Yes.
lower, then the mill rate goes way up again.
Right.
Way
So
up.
yeah, the hope is that, with inflation, with obviously growth, you continue to see those numbers climb. So therefore that helps obviously increase
Gotcha.
the other amounts, and therefore it kind of, bakes it all in.
Okay.
Adam, didn't you tell us though that this correction process that they're in after last year could be a more than 1 year correction?
Yes, so generally anything within your TIDs, it takes 2 years. So this impact occurred in 2024. It was on reports. It showed now this year. So hopefully when they do the updates in 2026, that now has stabilized, but that's the underlying question is we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, because even if it was similar to what the change this year, let's say it goes potentially down, the mill rates are past what they were last year, if not more, right? Which is, I'm just thinking like down the road, and that's without any change in like the CIP or whatever else next year. So, yeah, just something I think everyone needs to be aware of.
If there's no other questions then on the SIP or the budget, a motion would be in order to recommend to the village board as presented and amended.
I second that motion. If
Would you
you were
like-
making it,
I wasn't making it.
okay,
Motion by Lasko.
then so move.
Second by House. Any further discussion? All in favor, respond with an aye.
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 Great. Okay, we will move on to B, waterfront museum rent.
Well, this is about, the term was 10 years, and this is pay in lieu of, what's the T stand for?
Taxes.
Taxes, hello. So it's the pesky taxes. So we cap the pay in lieu of taxes at 50, and it was for 10 years. And Denise, you had a concern that, maybe it should go to 30 years.
No, they
No, the
changed
marina
it to
changed it to 30
30.
years, I beg your pardon. I agree, I think that's a little long, kinda, I don't know.
We changed their lease to, I think it was 20 years with an additional 10-year add-ons, should they so choose, because they're putting so much money into the building to restore it.
So then it looks like the compromise would be, that after 10 years, the rent be the annual pay in lieu of taxes, no matter what it is, minus 10 grand plus whatever the CPI is.
I'm good with that,
I think.
because I always wanted to tie it to the CPI, because everything else is tied to the CPI.
I mean, we do a lot of that as well. That was what Marina suggested, right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, seems fair.
So,
Right, because the thought was you would get, I mean, at an absolute minimum, the marina building, that couldn't, or that boathouse could make 10,000 a year, I mean. And the reason you put the CPI in is because in 15 years, it would obviously make more than 10,000 a year if you had it for something else, if you did almost nothing to it, so we thought that was fair.
I know the audit team is gonna be super happy, that you have such a simple formula right now instead of like 50 pages of calculations.
sure.
Good. Good one, Vlad. Okay, do we need a motion or a consensus?
I think we just have consensus, and you can forward to them that, finance kind of had general consensus that it's good, and we have no further suggestions.
Well, this goes back to Marina, right?
Which I'm sure they'll approve immediately.
So we kind of started off the bat on the Wilsey property. Is there any other conversation, or are we gonna? I think we talked about what we needed to talk about
Yeah.
today, and it's a bigger conversation for.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just one minor thing on the spelling of Chad's last name. Kodanko is K-O-D, I'm sorry, I'm on page 14.
how did you pronounce it?
I said Kodanko, whatever.
Kodanko.
Okay, then you spell it.
Kodanko.
Thank you. So I just wanted for the record, whether you would, anyway, page 14, if you want to just respell the last name, K-O-D-A-N-K-O. I don't know if Chad could spell it actually, but as long as he's not here. Okay, so.
Can I just say for the record, I'm not trying to give the housing committee a hard time or anybody who wants to do this project a hard time. I don't think it's a bad idea. I just want to make sure
I didn't take it that way.
that it's being done in a way that it works out the way that everybody wants it to work
I
out.
didn't take it that way. I mean,
Okay,
this is-
and I'm
this
not,
is-
you know, I'm not, yeah,
We've been trudging through this for a long time.
and the sewer and the water and all the things. I'm not trying to give anybody a hard time. I'm just,
I didn't
these
take-
are the questions that are raised to me when it's talked about outside of the committee meetings. And so I always want to make sure I bring those concerns to the meetings.
I didn't take it that way, true. Maybe
Okay,
we're gonna wait for somebody else to pay for it.
discuss public hearing schedule.
The one on the last page.
So
So,
that's on page 15.
so the 13th, we're done, we're here.
So next Tuesday, the village board will get the CIP. Oh wait, that's September. What am I, God, we're past that. We're past 10/13. So the village board got a CIP and budget.
On the 21st.
So next Tuesday.
And so then I don't know what the November 11th is. Finance Committee recommendation of adoption of CIP and budget.
Is that just our next finance meeting? I think it was,
But why would we need that? We've done that today.
I don't know.
I mean, unless
Actually, I
come
had-
November 11th, if there were numbers that came in at the end of this month
Yeah.
that would change. But other than that, I think we're already recommending to the board.
Yeah, I do that, have that. I wrote it in, but just because we talked about it last.
So we'll leave it there. I just don't know if we're actually going to need it.
Is that our
Just-
normal
Yep.
monthly meeting anyways?
We
don't
don't
really
really
meet
have
monthly.
monthly meetings.
This time of year.
So if we
Why
don't
not?
need that, we just wouldn't have one.
Yeah, it's more of a placeholder just in case, as you hit it on the head, Denise, anything changed or, you would need to have or if there was further discussion that needed to be added, that would be your last opportunity.
Which date are we talking about?
11/11.
11/11, okay. So are you suggesting we keep it there penciled in on our calendars? But-
Yes,
As a
Okay,
placeholder.
We'll just put possible finance.
which,
And we have to have so that if it goes in the paper on the 31st, that's Friday, yep. And we have to have 15 days.
On 24th, they want.
Yeah, they need it about a week in advance, right? But 15 days from the 31st would put it at November 14th, which means the public hearing on the 17th makes sense.
And it's at 5:30.
Oh, that's the special board meeting? Is
No,
that
that's the
what it is?
public hearing. So the public can come and make comments about the budget because the budget has been published.
And that's when the budget gonna be adopted.
The budget's adopted the next day at the board meeting,
At the
right?
actual board meeting.
I'm past that now. I scrolled back, so I'm not on that page anymore.
So.
Oh, you have it right
Yeah,
here.
on 17, that's the public hearing
Right.
and adoption. Or adoption is gonna be on 18, which is,
Do we formally adopt it at the board meeting on the 18th? No, we adopted on the 17th, I guess.
Yeah, we adopted, yeah, on the 17th.
Okay, and then we have a board meeting the next day,
Right.
18th, okay.
Right.
And then 19 through 21 is when they submitted it to the county.
So the only
Department of Revenue.
thing, oh, sorry, the only thing this committee is concerned about is we may possibly have a meeting November 11th. That's our next thing.
Right,
Right.
and what time did you say the public hearing was at? 5 or 5:30?
5:30.
11, 17, 5:30.
Okay. We're now gonna go into executive session. I'll make a motion that we adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Stats 19.85 sub 1 sub C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation debt of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, village administrator compensation and benefits. Motion by Berto. Second by Housen. Roll call. Berto, yes?
Housen, yes.
White, yes.
Glasgow, yes.
Warfel, yes.
At 3:05, we're in closed session. We're going to be leaving the room. And Andy's not here, and this closed session is for board members only. Sorry.
No problem. That's okay.
No problem. Yes, thank you all.